Album review! This time for a VTuber. It's Suisei Hoshimachi's second album, Specter. I've always been very mixed on VTuber music. There's a lot of mid. I've put on a lot of VTuber songs that are just not interesting in the slightest. Sometimes you do have a good release though, like the Mita Sakino album from 2021, or Suisei's side project with Taku Inoue, Midnight Grand Orchestra. But for every one of those, there's something like Mori Calliope, which makes your ears bleed. So how's this album? Does it live up to Midnight Grand Orchestra, or does it fall in line with every other mid VTuber album? Spoiler, it's the second one. The first song in this album is wii-wii-woo. This sounds a lot like an Otto song. You've got the deep, aggressive sounding vocals that you get on a lot of her hit songs, and the pretty rock-oriented instrumental. I like the messed up bass line on this track that's prominent, and the drums are fun, but I think the chorus is kinda weak. Her melodies here aren't particularly good, instead relying mostly on the heavy instrumental to carry her. It's just too fast, and it sounds rushed in a bad way. Again, the instrumental is pretty solid here, but her voice just does not work. This might have been good if it was given to Otto, but unfortunately, Suisei is not Otto, so I'm not too big on this track. Template is the next song, and Template is actually a really fitting name for this song, as it fits nicely into a very generic J-rock template. This song is just boring. We start with the obligatory mid-anime opening quiet piano and strings bit, before we progress into what is supposed to be an epic chorus. It's not, though. The melody kinda sucks, the instrumental is boring, and her singing is just uninteresting. It also doesn't help that the chorus ends really suddenly and crashes you right back into a terrible verse. The song structure is just a template which can work, but no original ideas were ever added to it. There's no energy, this isn't good at all. The energy, at least, is picked right back up from the intro of the next track, Michizure. The general idea of this isn't bad, but the chorus definitely is. It runs on for a long time despite having no interesting melody ideas, and the production just feels weirdly empty. It's not helped by the super cheap sounding horns and the fact that it tries to channel some kind of swing energy, despite not being a swing song at all, which might actually be a good thing, as I'm pretty sure the only thing that could make this song worse is if it was actually a swing song. This sounds just as soulless and uninspired as the last one did. Aseta Hanamidori is the fourth song here, and this still has a lot of issues. This tries to be more of a ballad with funk touches, but it doesn't really work at doing either. That really cheap trumpet sound I described on the last track is back here, and it still sucks. Suisei's singing is better here, but it's not being helped by a really generic melody and a super boring instrumental. I'd like to quick highlight the drums on this track, which are worth pointing out because they absolutely suck. The song also commits one of the gravest sins in modern J-pop, which is a random and completely unnecessary trap breakdown during the second verse. I don't know anyone who likes those. Why are they so prevalent in modern J-pop? This song is once again not good. True Girl Show is ass. I'm just leading by saying this song is terrible. Now, as I say that, the singing on this song is really solid, and it probably has the best chorus melody on the album. I have no issues for the most part with Suisei here. My issue is with the production, which is absolute garbage. For starters, what are these percussion noises? Why do they sound so terrible? Why do they drown out any interesting part of the song? Who thought that was smart? The entire second verse is absolutely horrendous. Suisei does a 20 million mile an hour biography in the middle of the verse for no reason, and somehow that isn't even the worst part of it. There's a random scat part. Why? Again, the melodies and singing here are for the most part pretty good. This is the most promising vocal performance so far, ruined by baffling production choices and just a general really terrible instrumental. Why is it like this? The sixth song, My Happy Transmission, is I'm pretty sure supposed to be one of the least happy tracks on the album. It's also one of the least interesting tracks on the album. This is really boring, the melody is painfully generic, the instrumental is below average, and again, her singing isn't bad, but that's also the only part of the song that is treading above water here. She does still sound kinda uninterested, though. This is just a painfully boring song that feels like it's only here to pad the runtime of the album. Not good. Speaking of songs that are painfully boring, we have the seventh one, Debutante Ball. This is a 6-minute long ballad track. It does not have nearly enough going on to justify being 6 minutes. It doesn't have enough going on to justify being 3 minutes. It doesn't have enough going on to justify existing at all. Like, this goes on for 6 minutes, and I genuinely can't pick out a single interesting thing about this song. Everything from the melody to the piano is mind-numbingly boring. I don't like this in the slightest. 7 Days is next, and it's an actual good song. It has easily the best instrumental instrumental on the album, and it actually feels hype and energetic. The trumpets don't sound as cheap, and it carries a pretty nice groove. The chorus is long, but it's worth it this time, with some good melodies and singing that really elevates the song above all the mid on the album. The singing also really shines in the verses this time, which is a rarity on this album, and the bass line is kinda generic, but it's still good. It's a really solid song that I'd be happy to re-listen to anytime. The next song, Damn Good Day, immediately returns to being boring. It has the horns and slight funk like the last song, but it does it much slower and again, much more boring. There's also another completely and utterly unnecessary trap breakdown in the second verse here, and it once again sounds terrible. This song is just generic and boring. It sounds so similar to like track 4. Nothing stands out at all. Soirée comes next, and the little funk touches are back, except they're once again being merged with bad sounding 808s. This song has a really bad chorus. It's just produced really badly. Everything sounds like it's collapsing in on everything else. For example, the stop start guitar sounds like it's getting in a fight with the kick drum throughout this track. It sounds so cluttered. This song just needs to strip it back. You really don't need this much stuff going on in a chorus to make it sound epic. You can do this in much simpler ways. The final song is Newton. The singing here is good though, and the melodies are once again pretty solid. The problem is, still, the production sounds absolutely terrible. Pretty much every noise that isn't her singing here just sounds bad. It also doesn't help that once again, this is a super generic J-rock song. The 3 choruses, 2 verses, and a breakdown instead of the 3rd verse that features the worst kick drum noise ever recorded to music. Why does this sound so bad? This is another perfectly solid vocal performance, ruined by an absolutely terrible instrumental. So that's Specter. I really didn't enjoy this album. Suisei is the best part on a lot of these tracks though. She's got good singing, and the melodies are good about half the time. The instrumentals on these songs, for the most part, are just really bad. From my understanding, I think she wrote less of this album, which was a bad idea, because it just sounds terrible now. There's also weirdly no Taku Inoue production on this album, despite the fact that all of her biggest hits have been with him doing the instrumentals. She needs to get him back on the phone ASAP, and they need to do a Midnight Grand Orchestra album, because that stuff has been by far her best work. 4.5 out of 10. No thanks.